Good evening, everyone. I am your host and instructor, Laney Shaughnessy, and welcome to Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. Spindle TV is brought to you by Digital Woodcarver, inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create your own unique masterpieces. Good evening, everyone. I am your host and instructor, Laney Shaughnessy, and welcome to Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. Spindle TV is brought to you by Digital Woodcarver, inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create your own unique masterpieces. Good evening, everyone. I am your host and instructor, Laney Shaughnessy, and welcome to Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. Spindle TV is brought to you by Digital Woodcarver, inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create your own unique masterpieces. Good evening, everyone.
What was all that craziness going on?
Welcome to Spindle TV.
Hey, everybody.
Your best source.
So hopefully this is working. There's all kinds of echoes and stuff happening.
Inspiring your creativity and providing you with the tools to create
I think
your
there's
own
an echo.
unique
Let me change some
Good
things.
evening, everyone.
What was all that
Welcome to
craziness
Laney
going
Shaughnessy, and
on?
welcome to
Bear
Spindle
with me.
TV.
Hey, everybody.
Your best source
So
for
hopefully.
CNC.
Okay. How's everything going now? Tell me. I need some input. Some input on make sure my sound level is one, that you can hear me. Number two, that we no longer have that crazy echo going on. So let me know. Let me know. Wow. Holy camole. It's insane. I'm going to be, I'm using a 2-computer setup now to hopefully keep my buffering down to a minimum. So we're going to see how well that plays out and all that stuff. We'll find out as we progress. Now, we are going to be making some very cool interactive pet toys to keep your pets' minds active, but also keeping them active, and then at the same time rewarding them with treats and stuff and all. And you've probably seen things like this online, these interactive pet toys and stuff. You know, they're out there on the market and they're fun, and I really want to make these projects for my daughter, so I'm going to be teaching a class on it, as I'm actually designing them for myself to make. My daughter does pet sitting, and she's into dogs and cats and animals in general and everything, and she owns a little pet sitting, not a little pet sitting, but she owns a pet sitting business. And I showed her, I said, you know, what would you think about her dog, you know, having Izzy, her dog's name is Izzy, having, you know, one of these cool toys and stuff, and she loved them. So I'm going to make one. I'm going to make a couple of different versions of them, and I thought I would take you along on the process, you know, and it'd be something that would be cool for, you know, for you to put out there for yourself and stuff, or, you know, someone that you know that has pets and all. They're kind of cool stuff, and they're different levels. These little games or toys and stuff. They're different levels, different challenge type levels and all. And I think we're gonna, you know, be making a basic and then also like a level 2 or something like that, if you would, you know, however you do that. Now, these are going to be 2-sided projects, and there is going to be, of course, some assembly required, you know, from these parts and stuff. And now, as far as what they can be made out of, we can make them, you know, I think I'm going to end up making mine out of MDF, and then I'm actually going to be putting a finish on it. You know, most all finishes after they're fully cured and all are safe and all, but you also have food safe finishes that are out there, like tried and true finishes, or, you know, butcher block finishes for, you know, salad bowl and cutting board type finishes and things like that. Even shellac. Shellac is made basically from bug excretes and everything, and some candies out there are even coated, you know, with shellac and all, so it better be food safe, right? You know, so, you know, I'm not sure exactly the finish I'm going to go with yet, but there are some options out there and stuff. I think, you know, because the dog's nose, and they're going to be biting at the things and all that stuff and chewing on them. You know, I might go with a basic wood, maybe a beech or something. But I think the first couple I'm going to make out of MDF and see how well they play out and stuff. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. I'd like to have just something nice, smooth finish or what have you. Okay, so hopefully that hopefully again that we have no issues with the streams and buffers and all that stuff and everything. And hopefully if this 2 PC system setup works and all for streaming and stuff, looks like I'm pretty fluent in the preview and everything. Hopefully if it all works, and I'll stick with it. Okay, so I want to welcome everybody for coming, and joining me tonight. We're about to get into this. It is 7:18, so yeah, it's time to get started and all. But I see a lot of shout outs from all over the place and stuff, so thank you, and good to have you with me. All right, so let's go ahead and switch on over to the screen capture and everything. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm actually running 1080p instead of 720, so hopefully things are a little bit clearer on the screen for you. Ooh, all that good stuff. All right, hopefully all the things are clear for you, and all that wonderful stuff. Okay, so now as I said on our job setup, this is going to be a 2-sided job, and so what I'm thinking is, let me see if I can pull a sample photo over for you to kind of give you a general idea of a similar kind of dog activity toy. Bear with me. Bear with me. Okay, now this is from Nina Odison, NinaOdison.com, I believe it is, -Odison.com. They make all kinds of pet toys, and this is where my inspiration came from. And also, someone sent me a little Pinterest video and all, and it really, that's what I sent over to my daughter. Said, hey, would you like me to make one of these for Izzy? And she's like, oh, I'd love to. And so basically, this little toy that you see here, now we're not going to do this one, but the concept basically is you have these little pegs, and under these pegs, hidden under these pegs, are little dog treats. And it's up to the dog to work out the challenge to get these pegs to slide forward, and then to be able to open up and move out or pull out, and then it would reveal a treat or a toy and everything. And so the pegs themselves, this is why I said it's a 2-sided project. The pegs themselves, we can go one of 2 ways with this. 1-inch dowel, we can use 1-inch dowel, and we can use a Forstner bit and drill and hollow out the dowel. That's where the treats are going to be hiding, and a drill bit to open up the top end, for the smell, so they can smell that there's a treat in there and stuff. Or we can actually mill the parts out on the CNC and make these pieces and everything. I don't know if you can tell from the photo, but notice how there's a lip here. And at the bottom of this dowel, now some of these dowels don't have the lip, but others, the ones that are in these little slider compartments, do. They have this ring around the top, and that's what kind of traps them in there, so they only slide back and forth, and stuff like that until they get to a certain point. And so this part could be cut out on the CNC versus using a dowel. If I was using a dowel, I'm going to just, if I were to use a dowel, it's just going to be for the parts that don't have the ring. But the parts that do have the ring on the end and things like that, I think I'm going to mill them. And so I'm going to show you the process that I'm going to do to mill them. And you can kind of decide from there which would be easier and stuff and all. So that being said, kind of to give you a little bit of a visual of something, similar and all, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Now, as far as the overall diameter on our job setup, I'm going to set this up as a two-sided job because we're gonna end up having two layers that are going to get glued together to create the game board, if you will. And so for the overall diameter, I think I'm going to go. I was looking at it and stuff and all. For the treat toy and stuff, and I was thinking, not too big, but not too small either. So I was thinking about 14 by 14, a 14-inch diameter, and I don't know why I picked 14 over 15, 15-inch diameter, but I'm thinking 14 by 14. So you'll see that I have in my job size here 14 by 14 by 3/4. Now, there's gonna be I was thinking that it would either be 3/4 or 1/2-inch material because there's going to be two layers, and you'll see how all this will come together in a minute with all these pocket cuts and stuff that we're going to be doing and all. And so I was thinking that if I did 3/4 and 3/4 for these two layers and stuff, that'd give me an 1.5-inch thick game piece and all. I'd also have if I were using if I was going that route, then I would also pre-glue two 3/4-inch boards together for making those pegs, the pegs that drop in and out. And so I haven't designed this yet. I haven't pre-done anything yet and everything. I've just done a lot of research and stuff and see what's out there. And there's another cool one with Coke bottles and stuff, plastic bottles and all that the dogs can play with and all that I like. But it really doesn't. There's not a whole lot of CNC activity that we can do with it. It's mostly just wood and bottles and stuff. But all right, so we're gonna go 3/4 for this. If if we decide to thin it up, maybe one piece being 3/4, another being a 1/2 inch, or whatever, depending on how thick we want this project to be, we'll go. But Izzy's a pretty tall dog. Izzy's a service dog, and I don't know what mix she is, but I know she has some poodle in her that's super tall. She's tall and all. So we'll go. I think I'm going to go 1.5 inches. All right. For this, now my setup, as you know, if you've joined me each week and everything, my setup is I work off of the bottom of my material. My waist board is my Z0 position. I touch off because I use my little cam clamping jig and stuff. So I'm going to set the machine bed as my touch off, my Z0 position. But this could be something that you could definitely set up as your material surface. No problem at all there. So you don't always have to go by my settings and what I'm doing. You're going to basically set your job setup based on what you need, your needs and stuff, and what you want. Now, for me, because I do work off the waist board as my Z0, that I'm not going to be zeroing off the same side or anything like that. I'm going to be zeroing off the waist board for both front and back sides, the top and bottom sides. Now, my particular setup on my table and all works off with my fence and everything, works off the bottom left corner of the material for my XY0. With my quick set block for setting X, Y, and Z and stuff. So for me, I'm going to be working my XY datum is the bottom left. For you, it may be the center of the material, one of the other corners, or you might have a fixed home position where your material is positioned in another place on the table, and you actually have a offset that you use depending on your setup and stuff. But I'm going to work off the bottom left corner. I always flip my board along the Y-axis. So I'm going to use that as the flip direction, the Y-axis. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get this set up. Now, similar to like you've seen, let me get comfortable here. Similar like you saw in that image, all three of these toys for me are going to be round in diameter and everything. They're going to be round. And the first one and the second one are just going to be kind of a they're in levels as far as like how much challenge it is for the pet. It could be a cat or a dog. It doesn't have to be a dog. It could be a cat or a dog, But the first one we're going to do is just a very simple hide and seek type treat thing. And then We're going to have one with a full spinning top that hides the treats, and they actually have to turn that. And I haven't decided on that rotary. It's almost like, think of a Lazy Susan. I don't know if I'm going to create grooves and put little bearings in there so it spins, or if I'm actually going to put a bearing in there like a fidget spinner, you know, so that the lid spins freely. And I think if I use the bearing and all that, that lid will, you know, when they go to scratch on it and turn it, it's going to be so loose that it'll spin fast and it'll keep hiding the treats. So they really have to, it challenges them to, you know, step on it to get that treat to be exposed so they can get access to it and all. It's going to be pretty cool. So I think I'm going to go with the bearing, and we'll see how we would set that up in the drawing. But let's get started. All that rambling and all, I'm just trying to give you a lot of preliminary so you know what we're doing, so you can kind of mentally visualize what's going on. Hey Reginald, thanks for dropping by, buddy. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a circle, and for this circle we're going to go ahead and go with a diameter of 14 inches. And we're going to go ahead and let's single click on that to highlight it, and then I'm just going to use the F9 key to center it onto my material and everything. And now one of the things that I see here is, of course, my outer diameter is the same as my material, and when this part is getting cut out on this bottom side here, that means my bit is going to be cutting into my fence. And I have two fences, so they're separated, so I think where I can put my other fence it won't fall into, but why risk it, right? So what I'm going to do is drop back over to the job setup real quick, and I'm just going to go and make this 1 inch bigger all the way around on my material. I'm going to go 15 by 15, but I am using a 14-inch diameter piece of material, or my project is going to be 14-inch diameter. So once again, F9, get that centered back up, and now I've got some clearance for my bit around there and stuff. So cool, we're good to go. All right, now this particular this first toy, this basic toy and everything, is going to have a center kind of little treat area, and then it's going to have treats all around the perimeter. We're going to go, let's see, we'll probably go 8. But now we got to decide, okay, how big are these pegs going to be that the dog has to remove, you know, to hide the treat and everything. And I'm thinking a 1 inch diameter, because if I did decide, instead of making them on the CNC, that it's just easier for me to go down to Lowe's or Home Depot and pick up a 1 inch, you know, dowel, cut it into certain lengths, and then, you know, bore it out and stuff. You know, it all depends on the assembly and how much, you know, want to do. But I'd like to make them here just so you could just see the process of how I would approach making these pieces with the ring and without the ring. So we're going to do that. But so 1 inch diameter is going to be my number, my go-to. Now, if that's the case, if a 1 inch diameter is going to be my pegs, my holes that they go into, I don't want them 1 inch. I want this. I don't want them to be tight. It's not. This is pets. You know, it's not humans and all. And it's not a puzzle. It kind of is. But anyway, I want them to be loose to where they just sit in there. They sit in there. They have enough room to move around. Okay. So I want to give them plenty of clearance and everything all the way around, so that the pup can, you know, or the cat, whatever, can knock it off or pick it up with their mouth, or whatever the case may be. So what we're going to do is, Todd even says use PVC pipe. We can cap it and all that stuff. So, you know, see, people's already got their minds running. So what we're going to do is, since my pegs themselves are going to be 1 inch in diameter, I'm going to go 1 inch and 1/8. And that'll give me 1/16 of an inch clearance all the way around. Okay, so we're going to go 1 inch and 1/8, and basically I'm going to find the center point here, and I'm going to click there, you know, and that's going to give me my center peg, you know. And we can validate or verify, you know, we can have, with it selected, we can select the outer perimeter here, and we can go into the alignment tool and align to selection and click on center and just make sure it is. But I have smart snapping turned on, and as you noticed when I placed this, or when I clicked, my crosshairs popped up showing me where the center of the material and everything was. So you know, it was able to just drop it right there and all. Alright, so we've got that. Now, while I'm in transform mode, and transform mode can be accessed by double clicking on an object or by coming over to edit objects, the third icon on the first row, transform mode. And what this does, it gives me the ability to move, scale, rotate, and things, and mirror and stuff, without literally going into the tools. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm going to drag you know, my part up here, and we're gonna go there. Now I want 8 of these all the way around, and I'm gonna use the offset and layout tool called the circular copy tool and all, but bear with me a second. I just want to measure something here. Let's see here. Yeah, we're going to go 1 inch. I was thinking, man, should I go bigger? But that's okay. We're going to go with a 1 inch, 1 inch diameter. But this is 1 1/8. This is my hole here. All right, let's go into our copy and circular copy tool. And basically what I'm doing is taking this object that's selected, and I'm going to copy it around 360 degrees a total of 8 times. This will give me the spacing that I want and everything. And from my edge, this is a good distance and everything all the way around, because I would like to do a little bit of a round over on the edge, you know, so I don't have to sand the edges over and all. I want to make this as soft and you know, not sharp corners and things like that for the pups and cats and all that. Now my rotation center is going to be 7.5 by 7.5, and notice how I did that over here. This little icon or symbol, clicking on the dot in the center basically brings me to the center of my material. You can see that pivot point that popped up there and stuff. And that was just easy enough to double click on that versus typing in, you know, 15 and 15 divided by 2 type of deal. All right, so let's go ahead and let's copy those around. There we go. And all. And for a small dog, small little treats and everything, this is going to be fine. If it were a bigger dog or something, maybe a little bit bigger in diameter, probably. You know, looking at it visually, now that I'm kind of laying it out, looking at it visually. And if we were to look at this, these game pieces and everything, I'm assuming, looking at them, they're about 1 inch in diameter. That's where I kind of get the number just from the visual appearance of these. They look to be about 1 inch in diameter and stuff. And I could be wrong. They might actually be bigger. I don't know, you know. But looking at this game piece here, those 1 1/8 inch circles all look awfully small compared to the project in general. But I digress. Let me get off of that. Oh. All right, let's see here. Okay. So thinking now. All right, these are going to be my pockets. What I would like is I would like to have a little recess around the outer rim here, kind of like a shallow little pocket, just a little recess and stuff. So while we have all of these selected, let's grab the middle one and let's close this tool. We're done with it. I want to offset this to create the pocket vectors and stuff. So we're going to offset these outward a distance of I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch. The reason why I'm going 1/4 of an inch is it's going to make things easier on me because I am going to use a 1/4 inch end mill to cut these parts. So we're going to go 1/4 inch offset. And I'm going to go 0.26 just to give so the bit can fit down in the pocket area and all that stuff. Actually, I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch on this one, and then I'll show you where that other 0.10 is going to go. So 0.25 here, offset outward. Okay, that's going to create my little pocket areas, but I want to give it enough room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and select these inside vectors one more time. And I'm going to offset them inward this time, just that thousandths of an inch, 0.01, 0.10, and I'm going to click offset. And what this is going to do, it's going to allow that bit to just cross over this line by that 0.10 of an inch, that when I do the pocket cut and everything, I'll have a nice smooth edge here. I won't have a little bit of fuzzies and a lip and stuff. All right, so we've got those there. Let's go ahead and this is kind of the basic puzzle. This is the simple one and stuff. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go now and hold down my shift key. All of my inside vectors are still selected, so I'm holding the shift key to select all of these far outside ones. And let's move over to the toolpath side, and let's create our pocket. Now this is just for decorative purposes. There's no functional purpose for this. Really doesn't even need to be there, but I'd like to give it a little bit of decoration, just something, levels. So I want the cut depth here to literally only be about maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch deep. And I think I'm gonna go a 1/16 of an inch deep because again, it's just a decorative ring. 1/4 inch end mill. I'm not going to do any ramping on this. I'm just going to let it go at 1/16 of an inch, and it should be just one pass based on my 1/4 inch bit. So we're going to calculate this. Let's give it a name first. We're going to call this Deco Ring. Right? I don't know. Give it a name, pocket, and it's going to be the 0.25 end mill using that. So let's calculate that out. And I missed one. Dadgummit, I missed one. Let's go in here, hold down the shift key. Let's open this back up. Hold down that shift key and select that guy right there, and let's recalculate that. There we go. All right, so now we can go ahead and preview that selected toolpath. All right, so a couple of guys, Todd and Tippy, are throwing out that it might be about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And yeah, so, I probably think so too, guys. I think it is a little bit bigger. And hold on, let me do something real quick. I want to make sure that someone, if they did want to use the dowel method, that they could run down to a Lowe's or Home Depot, and I want to make sure, do they go up to 1.5 inches in diameter on dowels? Let's see here, on dowel stock that they sell, 1.5 diameter dowel rod. Just want to check, I'm trying to make this. All right, 1 1/4, 1 3/8, 1 1/4. So they do go up to 1 1/4 inch. Okay, you may have to just make it on the CNC, right? If we do go bigger in diameter, we might have to just make it on the CNC if we do go bigger in diameter. Okay, Doug, thank you for throwing that out. Doug says that, his Lowe's and all does have 2 inch diameters. Right, closet rods. Didn't even think about that. There you go. So let's, because I would like them to be bigger. I really would. They just look tiny, right, on that. Now for a small pup, small mouth or something, that, this might be a good size, but let's size it up. Let's size it up. And you guys are just going along with me on this process of making these toys and stuff for my kids. So there's going to be some changes and things as we go through. Let's go ahead and let's do that. Let's blank that out. I do want it to be bigger. So let's go with a 2-inch rod, 2-inch closet rod, basically. All right, I'm gonna just come over here and click. Oh yeah, that's looking better. And that needs to be two. It needs to be 2 1/8. I still want that 1/8 of an inch, of play. Boom, 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Okay, so that's good. I like the way that looks. All right, let's pop it up here. Hold down. There. Nice. Let's go back into that circular copy array tool, and hey, while we're here, let's do the offsets first. How about being smart about it? Let's go inward. I'm not going to select the new. Let's go inward, that 10,000ths of an inch. Okay, that's that one that's black. And then from there, let's go outward while it's still selected. Let's go outward, 0.25. And I do want to select the new on that one. Awesome. All right. So with all 3 of these guys right here selected, we're going to go into the copy circular array. And the reason why I'm doing it now is why do it after the fact, right? Why not just do it here? And we're still doing 8 copies all the way around. I do want to be revolving around my center, 7.5 by 7.5, and let's copy that around. See, that looks much, much better. Much better. It doesn't look so small. There we go. You guys rock. Okay. Let's, very good. So I like it. I like it. Oh, look, I even missed my center one. So let's, let's delete that. Let's grab one of these guys here. Double click to transform mode, hold down the control key, and we will snap that bad boy right to the center there. All right, so that means let's go back into this pocket toolpath here, and we've got all new vectors. So let's go through, and I'm going to select my outside and my 10,000ths inside vectors. There's no magic trick around doing this. So let's just go one at a time. And again, that 10,000ths offset line is just so my bit, when it's pocketing out that small ring, that it's just going right over that edge, so that when I do pocket out this center, it gives me a nice clean edge. There's no fast way about doing this. We're just gonna go in here. Want to get through this one because the level 2 puzzle is going to be a little bit more challenging, and pretty much we can use this same piece here for the next one, but it's not there's not going to be any pegs involved. No pegs on that one. All right, everything is selected there. Let's recalculate this toolpath and reset this preview the selected toolpath. There we go. I'm liking it already. Okay, now on our I'm going to group those together. While they're selected, I'm going to hit the letter G on my keyboard to group. Now group is also the tool over here on the left, group and ungroup, but it's the G and the U key on your keyboard for keyboard shortcuts. All right, so, and the reason why I'm grouping those is because now I can come in and select all of them, and all I have to do is hold down my shift key and unselect one that's within this group, and that will just leave the circles that I need selected to be selected. Ooh. All right, now this is going to be our pocket cut. Now on this pocket cut, we're going to cut down on this piece, this project here. it's going to be, right now the project is set to 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm thinking that I may go with that, or I might go 1 inch thick. And if I were gonna go 1 inch thick, then or 1.5 inch thick on the thickness, whatever the case may be, then I would be gluing another piece to the bottom. It doesn't matter which way you're gluing it, but I would assemble them beforehand. Now I have this job set up as a 3/4 inch piece, and I think that's going to be good for my preliminary project. So we're gonna stick with that. But think about thickness. You know, how thick you want the game piece to be and all that stuff. So I'm going to go in, and this is going to be a pocket cut, and it's going to be cutting down a total of about 3/8 of an inch deep. I don't want it to hold too deep because the dog has to be able to get in there with its little paw, its snout, its mouth, something, its tongue. It's got to get in there and be able to get these treats out of this little pocket. So I don't want too deep of a pocket. So I think we're gonna go just 3/8 of an inch deep here, and this is gonna be the main pockets. And it's going to be that same 1/4 inch end mill. So we'll calculate this out. And now we can preview that selected toolpath. There we go. That's going to be our little treat holder. You know, and it's not too deep to where you know it won't be too bad for the pup or the kitty. Okay, now let's go ahead and do our final profile cut on this, because this is the game board. We're gonna go back now and we're gonna be designing the game pieces for this, but this is just the game board. So this is gonna be a profile cut. On this profile cut, I will be cutting all the way through the material, 0.75. I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch end mill, cutting on the outside of the line, and I am gonna add some tabs so that it doesn't move around. So we're gonna go with about 1/8 of an inch thick tab, 1/4 inch wide. Or 1/4 inch thick, should I say? 1/4 inch wide by 1/8 of an inch thick. And I'm just gonna go with 4 tabs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and add some tabs there. There we go. Alrighty. Let's go ahead, and this is going to be the main board final profile. And I want you guys to get used to, you know, try to get used to naming your toolpaths and stuff. Now, before I calculate this, I do want to go up here and I do want to add a ramp. And I'm going to add a spiral ramp with this. You know, we've talked about spiral ramps before, but a spiral ramp, slowly as it's cutting, it slowly continues to drop just a few thousandths of an inch as it's going around and around. Think of water going down a toilet. You know, it's going around and down. You know, and so I want to make sure that if I am going to be using a spiral toolpath, that I want to make sure that my feed rate and my plunge rate match one another. And this is the only instance that we would have a matching plunge rate that matches the feed rate and everything. So I'm going to go 55 and 55 on this. And let's go ahead and calculate this toolpath. And we'll preview that cut. And as it goes around, it goes down. As it goes around, it goes down, and everything. Now, there's tabs here. I can't just bring this pocket. There's 4 tabs there. But remember what I said about a roundover? I would like to use a roundover bit. Now, I can do this on the CNC. I could just take the part over to my router table. I could use a palm router, or I could just sand over the edges. You know, it's not like everything has to be done on the CNC machine. CNC machine does a lot of many wonderful things and everything, but it doesn't replace, you know, other tools that you have in your shop. Give them some use too. Me personally, I'm going to use my my roundover bit that I have from Whiteside. It's a little 1/8 inch roundover. So and that's going to be, it's going to be before the profile cut. So let's go on that same selected vector here. Let's create a secondary profile toolpath. This time cutting only 1/4 of an inch deep, because the router bit that I'm going to be using, the roundover bit, has a 1/4 inch cutting depth to the roundover. And I'm going to be using the Whiteside 2050 1/8 inch roundover bit. 2050 is the tool number. And I'm going to be on the outside of the line, but I'm going to allowance offset. I'm going to offset this a negative 125, negative 1/8 of an inch. The reason being is the distance from the edge of the bit to the inside cut for that roundover is 1/8 of an inch. And the distance from the tip of the bit up to the top of that roundover is 1/4 of an inch. That's why we have a cutting depth of 1/4. That's why we have an allowance offset of 1/8 of an inch. So that way it goes around and smooths that edge. All right, this is going to be my edge roundover. And it's going to be the, for me, it's the Whiteside 2050. All right, let's calculate that. And now on my list, I need to move that up before the final profile cut. I need that roundover to run first and everything before the finished cut. So let's preview that toolpath. There we go. It gives us a nice smooth 1/8 inch, little 1/8 inch roundover at the top of the part and everything. Kind of a little bit of a finished look and all. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Now, these are 3/8 of an inch deep. I could use that roundover on the inside of these cuts here to kind of get those edges smooth. I wouldn't want a sharp edge cutting little pup's nose or something like that. So let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so once again, everything is grouped together, so I can select all of these inside parts and then just hold down the shift key and deselect the group, and that'll allow my vectors that I need to be selected for this. Let's go ahead and do a roundover. Same everything. We need that negative 0.125 cut depth. And this time, but though, I'm going to be on the inside of the cut. Inside of the cut. And I'm still going negative. Negative is going over the line. Positive is away from the line. So still going negative. And this is going to be my inside pockets. Round over. And again, it was my Whiteside 2050. Let's try that again. 2050. There we go. Let's calculate that. And let's take a look at that cut. So let's preview. Oh, let's move it up in the list. There we go. And let's preview that toolpath. Here we go. Now, notice that the roundover didn't do much because we've already pocketed out that 1/16 of an inch, right? And everything. So we need to start. at a 1/16 of an inch on that pocket cut, and then go down the 1/4. So we're going to calculate that one more time with that start depth in there, and let's preview that. Much better. Okay, much better. All right, cool. Okay, so baseboard just for this very simple little hide and seek game. This is the most generic of the three. Now let's go ahead and let's go into making our game pieces. Now for the game pieces, what I'm going to do is the game pieces are going to be thicker, out of thicker material, or we could use that closet rod stock, right? But if you're going to make the game pieces, I'm going to show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up a second blank project. And I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to use the same, actually, no, I'm not going to use the same parameters. I'm going to make this out of just, you know, it's only going to be 1.5 inch thick material, so I could literally make this out of 2x4 stock if I wanted to, but I might make this whole thing out of MDF. Not sure. So let's, I'm going to go, there's 9 of these that got to get cut out. 2 inches times 9 is at least 18 inches. So I'm going to go with a, 12. I'm going to go with a 12-inch long board that is 5.5 inches wide and 1.5 inches thick. This is going to be a 2-sided job, and so my setup is going to be the same. I'm working off the bottom of my material and the bottom left corner. For my Z0 position, the machine bed, my wasteboard is my touch off. Bottom left corner is my XY data, my start point. Flipping my board along the Y axis for the 2 sides. We're going to click OK. All right, so we already know that our pegs are going to be 2 inches in diameter. Okay, so I'm just going to drop a 2-inch part here. We know we need 9 pieces, 8 for the outer perimeter, 1 for the center. But before I create those, that array of, you know, those 9 pieces, I want to create the vectors. Now on this 2-inch piece, this is the generic game, this very basic game here, the pieces do not have the little lip at the bottom of them. So these are just going to be straight pegs. There's going to be a center hole, and so I'm going to say that center hole, probably about 3/4 inches in diameter, would be enough to hide a couple of little treats inside. So let's snap to the center of this circle and let's look at 3/4. 1 inch. Indecisive little bastard I am. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and 1 inch is going to be our diameter there. Now, I'm also on the other side, we're going to be drilling, or on one side, we're going to be drilling a small pilot hole in the very end of these, so that way the dog can smell that there's treats. Now, dogs have a strong sense of smell. They'd be able to smell it through that anyway, but this just gives a little bit of an added advantage to get them enticed to play with the toy and all. And so, yeah, some guys and girls are throwing out some good things. Makes a good shot glass holder, Donnie says. Yep, that's about to be the same concept. Todd said instead of a round over, you could use a V-bit, you know, and do a chamfer. Do a nice chamfer around the edges and things like that. So all of these are great things, you know, different modifications that you could do for different looks and stuff. So awesome, guys. Thanks. All right, so on the center here, I'm going to just do a simple 1/4 inch pilot hole. And I'm just going to click that right there. Okay, now I'm going to take these guys here, or this guy here, and I'm literally going to just drag out 9 of these bad boys. Now I could do an array, you know, but I'm just going to hold down my control key, and as I drag and drop, I can just keep holding my control key down and continue kind of I'll position them here in a second. Okay, Now on these parts, now if you have desktop, you don't have the access to nesting and things like that. So, but we could absolutely use the nesting tool in Pro and Aspire. We could use the nesting tool to help us space these parts and everything. So we could, get it one. If you have desktop, you would just be spacing them accordingly, and stuff. What I am going to do is, what I should have done was I should have grouped these together before I made all the copies, but let me go through and do that now. Let's select all these. I'm just literally dragging my mouse, selecting the part, and hitting the letter G on the keyboard to group these together. That way everything kind of stays aligned and centered as I'm moving them around and stuff. All right, and so on this here, basically, these parts being 2 inches in diameter all the way around, from center to center of my part, I'm basically, 1 inch and 1 inch, which is a total of 2 inches, and then I need space in between them for the router bit and all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on I just drug over this alignment guide rail, basically this guide rail, and I'm going to right click on this guide rail, and I'm going to create a relative guide. And so on this relative guide, I'm going to go to, my bit's going to be 1/4 of an inch. I'd like to have some meat in between, so I'm going to go 2 3/8, 2.375, and I'm going to create a guide. And had I came in and when I did that, had I select the new guide, I could have just kept going. Now that I have select new guide, I could just click, 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 to lay out those guidelines all the way across. And now what that allows me to do is I can come in and I can, center these and snap these, parts to the guideline and things to get my spacing. Ba-dum-bum-bum. And I probably could have went 2.5 on these and everything relatively easily. All right, one more, two more. Oh, if it doesn't want to move or snap, zoom in, get it where you want to get it. This one's just a little bit off. I'm going to zoom in tight, that way I can pull over to it. There we go. All right, now as far as alignment up and down, basically I'm going to select these 3 guys right here, hold down my shift key and select this guy here last, and then go to my alignment tool and align to selection up and down, just to pull those down into alignment. Same thing here with these. I'm going to grab these 3, grab this first one last. I'm using that as my alignment reference, and then I'm going to align up and down just to get them all in a nice row there. As far as this guy goes, I'll just make sure that he is centered up and down on the material. There we go. All right, so my 9 parts. Now, basically, as I'm cutting out here my 1/4 inch bit, if I determine that I'm not going to have enough, substantial meat to hold the parts in place, then I may change the spacing, and we're going to find that out right now. Let's go over to our toolpath side of our software, and before we start making cuts and copies and everything and all that stuff, or toolpaths, should I say, let's get the parts that need to be on the other side over to the other side. And that is, we're going to select all of them, And I'm going to copy them all to the other side. Okay, that way I should have vectors on both sides. Okay, notice how they, they waver, right? And everything. That's because I'm not centered up and down here on my material. Now, if your OCD is, kicks your butt and stuff and all, and it just drives you crazy, just grab these here and go into your alignment tool and go up to align to material and just push them down, and then make a copy of them to the other side. Okay, that way when you rotate, there's not a whole lot, except except for we do have some position change on the two inside ones as far as where they're at, but that's neither here nor there. It has no bearing on anything. It's not going to hurt anything because we're cutting on those same parts. Okay, so on this part here, I'm going to select all of these vectors now, and I'm going to ungroup them. Okay, and the top side, my top side, is where I'm going to do my main pocketing and stuff and everything. So basically, I'm going to deselect my inside vector and my outside vector on each of these guys and girls here. Now, we no longer need the guidelines, so let's go up to the guidelines and delete all the guides. We don't need them anymore. Just holding my shift key, turning off inside and the outside vector. Okay. Now let's go ahead and go into, this is going to be a pocket cut. Now these these parts here, 1.5 inches thick. I'd like to be able to, some treats are big, some a little bit smaller and all that stuff. I'd like them to have them somewhat deep. So I think I'm gonna go pretty deep with this pocket cut. I think I'm gonna go an inch and inch and a quarter. That'll give me a 1/4 inch. I'm going to go 1 1/8 deep. My 1/4 inch end mill is going to be used for this. We're going to be doing an offset cut, and we're going to, this is going to be side 1, inside pockets. Let's click calculate on that. While that's calculating, let's see here. Could you just cut a 3/4 inch ring and stack them? Sure could. Todd says, hey, could you just cut a series of 3/4 inch rings and then just stack and glue them together and then sand them smooth or what have you? Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure could. So let's go ahead and let's preview that pocket cut here. All right, cool. So we got our pockets and everything. Now our profile cuts are going to be cutting, our outside profile cuts are going to be cutting halfway through on these parts. So we're going to select them. So I'm going to be cutting halfway through on side 1, halfway through on side T. All right, so let's go ahead and this is going to be a profile toolpath, and I'm going to be cutting 1 1/4 inch. That's not true. I'm going to be cutting 3/4. 3/4 on one side, 3/4 on the other. We'll be using the 1/4 inch end mill for this. I'm going to be on the outside of the cut. I am going to add tabs on this. And on the tabs, let's back that up for a minute. I only want them to be 1/16 of an inch on each side, which is a total of 1/8 of an inch thick. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go with a constant number of 3 tabs on each of these. Actually, 2's enough. 2 tabs on each of these, and I'm just going to click add tabs and let it just drop them in where they need to go. On these 2 here, I'm actually going to swap position. Put this one up here and that one down there, and all the others I'm going to keep the same. So let's go ahead and calculate that toolpath. Side 1, outer profile, 0.25 in mil. Okay, let's calculate that out. Let's preview that cut. Now, you're going to notice something here, which is a wonderful thing, is the tabs, the way that they were positioned, and everything. Anytime you have tabs that are kind of going to be in line with each other, try to align them up just like it did here automatically by putting them in. What that does is that reinforces that area where there's little to no wood. And essentially what this does is this keeps our, on these insides here, it kind of keeps the parts connected. And it's the 2 outside tabs that kind of keep things moving. Now, looking at this, if you wanted to, if you said, you know what, I feel more secure with the tabs being, you know, maybe at a diagonal or top and bottom or whatever, that's up to you. That's fine. Because what's going to happen is you know, as these cut, and everything, all you have holding these inside of these parts together are these tabs. And so on these 2 inner parts, as it's coming through and cutting and all, there's potential of those parts moving and stuff. And so you can kind of decide on that, you know, if you want to, you know, reinforce it or change it around. Now, if you were going to change things around, basically, all you would have to do is on the edit tabs, basically put your mouse over the tab and drag, 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 so on and so forth. However you want to position, that's up to you. You can, you know, if you're like, you know, I just don't want to risk the part moving, then don't. You know, don't risk the part. But generally, when you have 2 tabs together like that, it's going to reinforce that area. And I do like to have a little bit of meat, you know, in between on that reinforcement to kind of, you know, something stable, a wall basically to attach to. But I don't have enough spacing here with that 1 3/8. Had I went 1.5 inch spacing, you know, apart, or 2.5, I'd probably been good with that. So let's go ahead and recalculate this toolpath, and let's reset this preview and preview again. And there we go. Okay, now I do this every single time I do a 2-sided job. I got to learn to break myself of this habit. I copied these vectors over already on the other side, side 2, and I generally should wait, if I delete these, I should wait till I have actually created the toolpath that has the tabs on side 1, because when I copy those vectors over to the other side, it's going to copy the tabs and the tab positions along with them. So I can go ahead and let's turn off these inside rings. Don't need them over. And let's copy those to the other side. And what this does for me is when I create the profile toolpath on these outer parts here, when I create that profile toolpath, you know, I'm cutting 3/4 of an inch, 6 through, I want to add tabs and everything, the tabs will be there. They're already going to be there for me and stuff. So all I would have to do at this point is, you know, give this a name, side 2. outer profile, 0.25, and I can calculate it, you know. Let's go ahead and select these. And by the way, when you're selecting, if the object is not 100% in the selection box when you're drawing from left to right, it will not select it. So we can easily grab all of these middle holes here by just drawing a selection window around them, even though we're crossing that window right over these outside vectors. As long as the object is not 100% in this selection window, it will not select it. Now, that is not true if I go from right to left. Then anything that my selection window touches will be selected, okay, when I go right to left. So, but if we go left to right, then it's only going to select what is 100% in that window. All right, let's do a pocket cut, or actually a drilling operation. This is just going to cut down. If I'm cutting on, I want to cut all the way through, but it doesn't have to be that deep, because remember, on the front side I have an 1 1/8 pocket. 1 1/8 pocket, which means I have 3/8 of an inch to go. You know, so I'm going to go 0.4 inches deep. 1/4 inch end mill. I'm going to retract above the start point of the cut to pull the fibers all out, because I am going to be using pecking. And we're going to go ahead, and this is side 2. I'm going to call it a vent hole, just because it's what it reminds me of. And we're going to calculate that. All right, so let's preview all the toolpaths here. Did anybody else lose connection? I got a message saying that a lost connection, a connection was lost. George, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people would be blowing up the chat room if they all lost connection as well. I'm not sure. Can we get a audio check? Can we get a video check? Make sure everybody can still hear or see me. Okay. Okay. All right, George, I'm not sure what caused the lost connection on your end, bud, but hopefully you're back with us. All right. Now, so basically on these cutout pegs and everything, you know, we've got the vent hole, and then we got the hole with it that's going to be hiding the treats, you know, and stuff. No big deal. But this is the top side of them, or not the top side. This is the bottom side. But I would like to smooth off and round over these edges. Okay, this is where the pup's going to be biting at or pawing at to knock them off or out of place to expose the treats. And again, this is a level 1 toy. This is just a, you know, this is not a too challenging of a thing for them. It just kind of keeps them active and interactive. And who's to say you have to put treats under all of them, right? You know, maybe just some. You can kind of hide and seek, basically. So what I want to do is I've got my vent holes that are getting cut first, and then the outer profile getting cut second. But I need to throw in a round over in here as well. So I want to do a profile toolpath on these outer vectors. And notice how I'm going right to left now and just, you know, grabbing these outer vectors there. And again, I'm only going to go 1/4 inch deep. That's all my round over bit requires. It's going to be the white side 20, 50, 1/8 inch round over, just a simple 1/8 inch round over. I'm going to be on the outside of the line, but I am going to be stepping over that negative 0.125 inches. That's my allowance offset for that bit. This is going to be just the, you know, We're going to call it side 2 because that's what it is technically. Round over. And it's the white side 2050. Okay. We're going to calculate that. Now in my list, I need to move that up, you know, so I don't accidentally think that I run that after the profile cuts are cut out and all that stuff. And so let's go ahead and preview that. And let's give those pieces just a nice, clean, round over edge and all. All right. So we got a little, you know, these little game pieces, a little vent hole. So the scent of those treats can escape. On the other side, we have our pockets, you know, where we can hide 2 or 3 little golden nuggets of goodness for them. And then, of course, these game pieces simply sit inside of our finished game piece. Nothing to it. And it's up to the pup to pick up, move, or knock over the parts and, you know, get to the treats. Now, make it a little bit challenging for them, you know. Don't put treats in all of them, under all of them, maybe a couple, because make them have to, their sense of smell, their you know, their sense of sight, when they knock apart, they smell it, you know, and they can smell which one of those pegs has that treat, and they can go after it, you know, and everything, you know, they can have some fun with it. This is a very simple puzzle. We're about to make a more complicated one, that not more complicated, but just more challenging for them, that they actually have to work for it, for the treats and all. So very simple, one and done. Okay, let's go ahead and we should probably go over and save these. This is going to be a dog toy. I'm going to call this the basic skill pet toy. This very basic skill pet toy. And this is the base. So we'll save that. And then I'm going to jump over to the second project here and do the same thing. And this is going to be, I'm going to just single click there to get that name down there, but this is going to be the game pieces. Now, you don't have to, again, you don't have to make the game pieces out, you know, on the CNC. Closet rod stock is 2 inches in diameter, as they were saying, so that would be a perfect diameter, and basically a Forstner bit on one side to create that 1 inch diameter opening, or also 1 inch diameter bit, but a Forstner bit would be a nice, you know, give you a nice flat bottom, hand drill, and then a 1/4 inch, you know, hole in the center, you know, on the other side. Very simple. These parts could be rounded over at a router table. They could be sanded over just to smooth the edges. We want to make it pleasant for them, you know, and all that stuff. All right, so that's one and done. Let's go ahead and let's get out of that. Let's go ahead and create a new project. Okay. On this project, I'll make this board here. This is going to be for the pegs for this project. And on this one, there's going to be a total of 6, maybe 5 or 6 pieces, and all. Oh, let's not do this. Let's real quick. Let's do the second one, which is very simple. Utilizing this base here without the center hole. Utilizing this base, you can make a second version of this that doesn't use the pegs, but it uses like a Lazy Susan type top. So we would have a solid surface circle top that would sit covering these little holes. Being 3/8 of an inch deep, you may want to go a little bit deeper, so your treats can actually sit in these holes, hiding these little morsels of goodness and all. But the top piece, probably out of 1/4 inch thick material or maybe 1/2 inch thick material, we're going to cut a round disc with a single hole in it. And basically, that hole, as this disc turns, it's going to expose the different outer holes and things, you know. So they have to turn the lid to get to one of the, you know, to get the lid to the one of the holes in the treats and stuff. Now, on this, let's take this simple base here and let's modify it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, because we can actually use this one to create the second version of this that doesn't use pegs. So I'm going to call this the spin version, spin lid version, whatever, spin version. We'll call it spin version. All right. And I'll make this layer the lid. Cover, lid, top, spinning top, whatever, top. There you go. We're going to go with top. All right, so on the spin version, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these vectors here and we're going to copy them to the spin version layer. And then we're going to take this outer perimeter here and we're going to copy that to the top layer. And we can go ahead and turn off layer 1. Okay, now on spin version, we won't have this center hole here. Let's ungroup these. Okay. Let's make sure and we don't necessarily need that outer, you know, decorative ring. I mean, we could. It's not. It doesn't hurt it to do so. All right. So our spin version. Let me think here. Nah, we don't need the ring. We don't need the ring for this one because all these are hidden anyway. So the other one was more for a visual. We don't need it for this. Okay, so now on this one, the center here is going to be a small bolt. Okay, and on the if we do this as a two-sided project, the only thing that the bottom side is going to get of this here is a pocket for like where a nut can go. Because what I'm thinking on this top is that imagine if you will, let me see if I can switch over to my front scene to me for a minute. Imagine if you will, this was the top, okay? This little bearing like a fidget spinner and stuff. If these bearings, you know, you can buy these bearings relatively inexpensively and things. Basically, you know, let's see if I can. Oh, is it gonna let me pop that out? Probably not. But simple little bearings, right? Little skateboard bearings and all that. You can buy them relatively inexpensively. What I'm thinking of is that I'm gonna have a little button head bolt machine screw that's going to be wide enough to go, you know, through the top and then to the bottom. But not, you know, I want it to go through the bottom, but on the bottom side, I want a pocket to where a nut can go. So that way everything is nice and flush. I don't want anything sticking out from there. But in our lid, we're going to have a pocket cut for where that bearing can go. It's going to be a nice pressure fit. And what that will do is that will let that lid slide really freely. So they have that, you know, he has to slide, or he or she or it, or, you know, whatever, your pet has to slide that lid. And I want it to really be free spinning. You know, I want it to not be, I want it to be slick, you know, very smooth when it spins and stuff, so that they literally have to kind of, you know, they got to step on it, they got to stop it to get it to expose that hole perfectly so they can get those treats out and everything. And then of course, as they're starting to fight for those treats, you know, trying to get them out of those little holes, that lid's going to be moving on them and stuff. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them. So on this side, on the bottom side, the base side, really all we need is a small enough pilot hole that our bolt could fit into. And a 1/4 20 machine bolt would be fine. 3/16, 1/4 20 and on. I think I'm just going to go with a 1/4 20 because it's easy enough to use a 1/4 inch bit or a bit to drill our hole, right? So I'm going to go with a 0.25 inch diameter. And before I do anything, notice what happened here. I didn't have the proper layer, active when I was drawing, and it turned on the other layer. But let's do that one more time. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch diameter hole right in the center. Okay, and that I'm going to also copy it to the other side. Okay, our pockets and everything, really, for this spin version is going to be the same thing. So what I'm going to do is our internal pocket here, not the deco ring, but the main pockets, I'm going to duplicate that toolpath, and I'm going to move it down to the bottom of the list because this is kind of version 2 and everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. Oops. V2 version 2 main pockets, and I don't need that 1 at the end, and that's going to be on that guy right there. That's going to be all of them except for my center hole. All right, let's calculate that out. Okay, let's reset that preview. That's our hole. Okay, now on this one, don't necessarily need to do the round over on it because the round over is going to be on the lid. The lid's going to have a single hole in it and everything, and we're going to round that over because we're going to make that soft for the pup and everything. So on here, might as well do our little drill toolpath. So we'll create a drilling toolpath, and we're going to cut all the way through 0.75. And this is going to be my bolt hole, center bolt hole, let's call it. Oh my goodness, cap lock. All right, here we go. One more time, center bolt hole. I'm trying to get to the next one. The next one's a little challenging. It's a fun project to try to lay out. Center bolt hole, 0.25 end mill. Oh, hey, it would help if you all could see what I'm doing. All right, let's get back to what so y'all can see what I'm doing. Switch the screen, he says. Switch the screen. Basically, what I did was put a 1/4 inch diameter circle in the center. Okay, 1/4 inch diameter circle in the center, and I copied it to the other side. Okay, so I put that vector on the other side. On the tool path for the center bolt hole, it's going to be going all the way through the material. I'm going to be using pecking and stuff, and so that's going to be the center hole. But what I did before making the center hole was up here, the main pockets, I just right click and I duplicated that tool path right there, and I drug it down here and just gave it a new name, version 2, and made sure that it was, on those new vectors that are on my new layer. All right, so you didn't miss much, but yeah, thanks for throwing that out. So that everybody's like, where's the other screen? So that's what we did. So let's look at this preview here. Okay, so very simple. On side 1 of this project, we have the pockets and the center. Now on side 2, you could literally do side 2 not on a. You don't have to do it on a CNC. you could just drill a little pocket, you know, with a bigger bit or something, you know, basically a countersink. But I want to do it on side 2 because I want a nice round hole. So on side 2 here, I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to offset him outward a distance of about a 1/2 inch. Okay. Let's go 3/8 of an inch. There we go. I want to be able to get a wrench or a socket on the bolt head. Yep, we're going a 1/2 inch. Dadgummit. 1/2 inch. 0.5. Okay, so I got this 1/2 inch, you know, hole here, and this is going to be a pocket cut. And this pocket is only going to be deep enough so that the bolt or that the nut can be sitting flush, because I want it to be able to sit flat. You know, I don't want anything sticking beyond the bottom side of this. So basically, I'm going to go with, you know, if my nut, you know, is 1/4 of an inch, then, you know, I want to go a little bit more than that and all. So we're right at a little over 1/8 of an inch. So a 1/4 of an inch will be actually plenty deep enough for this pocket. So I'm going to go 0.25 and 1/4 inch end mill. And this is going to be my side 2 nut recess. 0.25 end mill. Okay. Okay. And then I would probably run this one first, get it out of the way, flip the board over, and do all the rest as well as the profile cut. And on this main board, final profile cut, I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to drag that down here because it's the same vector, essentially. Same outer vector and all that, same tabs and all that stuff, so I don't need to do anything with it. It's already got my ramping and everything in there, so all I have to do is preview that cut and everything. And that's going to be the base. Okay? Now, the lid. Let's go back over to our 2D view and let's go back over to our lid. Let's turn off that and turn our top back on. I am going to steal one of these vector holes. We're going to copy this to the top layer, just that one. And that's it. This one's going to have a center hole for my bolt. It's probably going to be a machine screw with a button head, and I don't mind the button head being sitting on top. I don't want to do any recess in here because on the bottom side of this, on side 2 of the lid, is going to be the recess where the bearing is going to go. So on this is both of these are going to be a profile cut, cutting all the way through. Now, even though this job is set up for a 3/4 inch piece of material and stuff and all, my board and all, my project material is going to be the same size. And if my material is a 1/2 inch thick and all, I could, you know, I could come in and just create a profile toolpath cutting a 1/2 inch thick. I don't need to, you know, create a whole new job because it's the same vectors and all that stuff. If that gets confusing for you, then just create a whole separate job, you know, with the material set up the way, you know, you want and stuff. But on this, I don't want my lid to be 3/4 of an inch thick. I want it to be, I would really like it to be 3/8, you know, but if I were making this out of MDF or something and I'm going to be putting a salad bowl finish on it or whatever the case may be, shellac finish or what have you, I'm only going to be able to get 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch MDF from Lowe's or Home Depot if I were, if I were going out there. 3/8 would be a specialty, and I'd have to special order that, and I'm not going through all that, So we're gonna use just good solid numbers. So on this, we're gonna cut. It's gonna be a 1/2 inch thick, 1/2 inch deep, because it's gonna be cutting all the way through. All right, so we're gonna calculate that. Okay. Now on this lid, oops, sorry, on that profile, both of these vectors are going to get selected. Both of these vectors are going to get selected. Okay. All right, stand by. Oh, 0.5 inches deep. I was like, where in the world did that cut go? Okay. 1/2 inch deep. So we're going to have that cut. Now, of course, this would be cutting all the way through this piece because it's only going to be a 1/2 inch thick, and so these parts would be broken off, but I can't, take them away in the preview. Now, on side 2 of this lid, on side 2, we're very simply going to have a place for where the bearing is going to go. Now these bearings have an outer diameter of about 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch. And I want this to be a pressure fit. I want it to be a nice fit. Now I probably will end up putting a little bit of epoxy or something to kind of lock it in, type of deal, or CA glue or something. But still, I want it to be a nice pressure fit. 0.625 inches in diameter. Okay. And let's bear with me a second. Try this one more time. Okay. And just a small bearing. And all this is just to make that lid smooth. Now, you don't have to even use a bearing. You just don't tighten the bolt all the way down so the lid can spin freely on it and all. But I think having a bearing in there, would allow that lid to spin nice and smooth. Yep, I haven't, yep. David Kinsey, I got to add my guide pins so you guys know about how to flip a 2-sided job. So we'll do that on that. And then tabs will only be halfway as deep on the copy. No, Tippy, the tabs will be as deep as the cut. Tabs start from the bottom up, and I'm cutting 1/2 inch deep on a 1/2 inch thick piece of material that I'm going to have clamped on my table. So the tabs will start from that 1/2 inch up, a 1/16 of an inch, and everything. They don't need to be that. They don't need to be an 1/8 inch thick, but you have the right idea. So the bearing, like I said, the outside diameter of one of these bearings, and basically I'm going to end up probably stealing one out of one of these fidget spinners that I have laying around. It's a good source for them. And each tape measure reads something a little bit different, so bear with me a second here. Oh, it's so close. Yeah, 5/8. It's just a little shy. Okay. And all this is now, as far as the thickness and everything, these bearings are actually not that thick at all. Oh, I wish I could pop one of these out. Let's see here. I got it. Ugh. So, one of these little bearings right here. And so the thickness of this bad boy is 1/4 of an inch. So that's how deep my pocket's going to be. 0.25. 1/4 inch end mill. This is going to be my side 2 bearing pocket. 0.25 end mill. Okay. So now, if we preview, let's rename this one so it doesn't confuse you guys. Lid bearing pocket. All right, on my lid, we go back over to side 1 here and everything. We're going to have just a simple blank cutout. It's going to have a bit of a hole here. Now that centerpiece won't be there. And on the bottom side, we're going to have the pocket for the bearing. Now we need for the bolt hole to go through and everything. So we need our little bolt hole. Bolt hole. Let's go on side 1 here. And it only needs to cut halfway through, a 1/2 inch through. So pocket cut 0.5, 1/4 inch end mill, and this is my Okay, are we back yet, guys? We lost connection. Actually, it wasn't my fault this time. We lost internet connection. But I've lost my chat. Hang tight for a second. We lost connection. Everything melted. Okay. We had lost connection, so I don't know how long that we were out. But let me just recap here. Okay, everybody's back. Okay, let's recap here for a second. We are on our second project here. We're doing the lid right now. On the lid, we have a profile cut that is cutting on the inside of this circle here, creating a hole that when we spin that lid, that hole is going to expose these treats on the base. And then we have our profile cut. Now on that hole and on that lid, you know, on the inside of that hole, and then on the outside of the lid, I want to do a round over. I want to smooth things over. So when I am doing my 1/4 of an inch deep cut with my 1/8 of an inch negative 0.125 allowance offset and everything, and I've got my vectors to set to cut on the outside of the line, the software is smart enough, it's intuitive. It knows that I have an outside vector here, but I also have an inside vector. So it will reverse that cut for the inside vector, and it will cut on the inside of the line here. You know, so it's not going to screw things up by cutting on the outside of this line. So we can select both these vectors and we can put them in the same toolpath. And this is going to be my lid. I'm going to call it, let's see here, V2, version 2, lid round over 0.25 end mill. And what I was saying when we got disconnected was that, you know, when we have inside vectors and we're doing a profile cut and we choose to cut on the outside of the line, when we calculate that toolpath, the software is intuitive enough to know that the toolpath on the outside profile is going to be cutting on the outside of that line, as you can see here. But it's noticed that we have an inside vector, so it reverses that and it cuts on the inside of the line, which is exactly where we need to cut it. Now we are stepping over that 1/8 of an inch for that round over to get that round over and everything. And so as you can see, our bit is crossing over those lines by that 1/8 of an inch, but it is crossing over in the correct orientation. On the outside of the line, it's stepping over an 1/8 of an inch inward. And on the inside of the line, it's stepping over an 1/8 of an inch outward. It's doing exactly what it should be doing and everything. So when we preview this toolpath, that's what's going to give our lid a nice, comfortable little rounded over edge, you know, on the outside and the inside. Now this center peg is not going to be here. And I want you all to understand this, that this lid, even though I'm drawing it in the same project file that's my 3/4 inch board, I'm actually going to be cutting it out of a piece of 1/2 inch material. Nothing is going to change. My material is still going to be 15 inches by 15 inches. I'm still starting from the bottom left corner of my board and everything. The only difference is that I'm cutting through 1/2 inch thick material and all. Now, because of my particular setup, working from the bottom of the material, it's going to affect me. You know, it's going to be cutting in the air for a while before it gets down to the cut and everything. If you were touching off on the top of the material, it wouldn't matter. So if this confuses you, then we can make it less confusing by creating a completely different project file. That is 15 inches by 15 inches by a 1/2 inch thick. Machine bed, bottom left corner, flipping along the Y, none of that changes. And in this design, I can go ahead and grab these vectors here and copy them. Copy. And we can go right over here, paste. Okay. All right. I can create those same toolpaths. So profile cut, 1/4 of an inch deep with my round over on these two vectors, not the center guy here. Let's turn him off. Stepping over negative 0.125, and this will be my lid side 1 round over. and it's the white side 2050 bit. So we can have that. All right, so that way we can see that round over cut. Okay, we can create the profile cut, cutting a 1/2 inch thick, 0.5, with our 1/4 inch end mill. On the outside of the line, we can add our tabs. Might as well put a tab there. Hold on a second. Let's add 2 tabs. All right, this is going to be lid, side 1, profile cut. Okay, you can see the lid. Now you can see it cut through, so it doesn't confuse you. And then let's flip this over to the other side. And on the other side, we have a 5/8 inch, 0.625 diameter hole. That was a pocket cut for our nut recess. Cutting a 1/4 inch deep with our 1/4 inch end mill, and this is the lid side 2 nut recess. Our 1/4 inch end mill. Okay, and might as well, while we're here, let's get this guy and move him over to the other side so we can do our drilling, cutting a 1/2 inch deep all the way through, 1/4 inch end mill, and this is our bolt hole, lid, bolt hole. All right, so we can preview that. Okay, so on our lid on the bottom side, we're going to have a place where our bearing goes, and that's going to allow that lid to spin. You know, like a little fidget spinner is going to spinning this circle. If we flip over to the other side here, you know, it's going to spin around. Well, a little bolt head sticking up here. That's fine. That's fine for the game. This centerpiece will be gone and everything, and that's going to spin around. And when it spins around, it's going to be spinning around on our base. If we want to preview our base, let's get rid of this and preview our base. Okay. And then on the back side, or let's do our profile cut for our oh, did I just do that like a goofball? Bear with me. There we go. I'm going to go through and delete these lid toolpaths as soon as it's finished previewing. Okay, so our base, we'll have our base. Let's get rid of these toolpaths. We don't want the lid toolpaths in here because we're going to create a second completely different project. So we're going to delete those. Okay, So we have our base here. This is version 2. Little treats get hidden in there, and then out of that, our lid gets mounted to the top and bolted, to the top loosely, not too tight. And that lid should be able to spin freely like a little lazy Susan. Think about that, like a lazy Susan, all the way around, exposing those holes and exposing those treats, so on and so forth. Okay. On the bottom side of this, we have our pocket cut. Let's reset this preview. Let's go back to this one. On the bottom side of this, side 2, we have our, let's flip it over. We've got our nut recess. If we preview that. Okay. So that our nut will be recessed flush and everything as that bolt goes through. Okay. So this will be the base for version 2. All right. Let's see what we got here. Do we not need to make a pocket cut on the one side to allow the center cylinder of the bearing to spin freely? Do we not need to allow a center cylinder? Do we need to make a pocket cut on the one side to allow the center of the bearing? No. Okay, let's go back to our lid. Okay. Our bearing is going to be press fit into here. Okay. Our bearing is going to be press fit into here. And you're going to be bolting that, you're going to be tightening that down tight. And most likely you'll have a washer right here, separating the lid from the base. But just like this fidget spinner here, you've got the pocket cut where that bearing is going to, fit into. And then it's going to be bolted. Now, when it's bolted down, that center area there is what spins, freely and everything to allow that to spin. I don't care how tight you pinch that center and everything, it's going to spin freely, So I'm not sure, David, what your question is, but I'm thinking, David, I'm thinking. Yes, the outer side of the bearing, but the center of the fidget spinner is higher on both sides. Bear with me. Okay, I see what David's talking about. All right, so what David is saying is do we need a spacer or something here that will basically we're going to use a washer, use a metal washer. What we'll do is on that pocket, let's go to the other side. On the lid, bear with me now, I gotta find my recess toolpath, so flip that over. Call it a nut recess, and that's supposed to be bearing. Pocket. Okay. So on this let me think here, David. David's thinking that with that bearing pressed in, like I just presses in, he's saying the center of that bearing is higher on both sides, and yes, he's saying if you set it on the table, it will spin. Well, it actually doesn't. If I set it on the table, it won't spin. I wish I could show you that. Here. If I, it doesn't spin on the table. But that's what these little step things are, right here. These little pocket things. They go in. They press fit in there. And that's what allows it to sit up raised so that it'll spin. If I can push that some, bear with me a second here. That's what lets it sit on the table and spin freely. So we need to basically create that type of environment for the bearing. And a small plastic spacer or a washer would work just fine. I don't think we need to do anything in here, but let's look and see what I could do. What can I do? I can my on my when this gets bolted, all right, so the bearing is going to be flush with this. And on the base, we're going to put a washer between the bearing and the base when we bolt this down, and that washer is going to create that space that will allow the center to spin freely. I don't need to do anything with this pocket, but I do need to put the spacer between the base of the toy and the bearing, so that that washer needs to be able to sit very much similar like this lid here. So that it spins freely. Okay. Yeah. Either way, you guys get it. David, you know how to work with a damn bearing. Do it. Do what you got to do. I'm just trying to show you. I don't, yes, but yeah, we have to create that stuff. If you're smart enough to ask the question, then you're smart enough to know the answer, right? You got it. So, put a spacer in there. Put a washer. Put something. But I'm not going to do anything in the file to accommodate for that. I'm not going to try to make some funky special kind of pocket or something. Alrighty, let's move on to number 3. No bearings, none of that stuff. You're good. There we go. Yep. Alright. Let's see here. Let's close out all of this all together. Might as well save these files so I can share them down the road. This is version 2 spinner toy. Okay. Alrighty. Yep, Tippy, see, you got it too. You guys know exactly what you need to do. So if you're making one of these at home, you know exactly how to do it, right? You follow that instruction. There you go. Very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and go into version number 3, 15 by 15 inch board. This is going to be a 3/4 inch thick. This one is going to be 2 3/4 inch boards cut separately and then assembled together after the fact. So they're both going to be the same size material. Working off the machine bed, bottom left corner, and I will be flipping, like always, along the y-axis. So my setup is not changing as far as material. My diameter of this second piece is going to be 14 inches, just like the other one. Okay. And on this one, there's going to be 6. But now this game is going to be interactive. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this, but it's going to be kind of a sliding and expose the treat type of game. Okay. On this one, the holes at the top, the vent holes at the top, actually need to be kind of wide enough for you to be able to slip the little treats in, because the parts are going to be kind of trapped. Those little slider things are going to be kind of trapped in there. So that the dogs, the cat, the whatever, they're literally going to have to work for these particular treats. So now, on this one, I'm having chest pains. On this one, we don't necessarily need to, it doesn't necessarily need to be a circular shape. It could be a, you could give it some kind of nice little cool shape or what have you. But we're going to have 2 halves that get assembled together. And let's start with the bottom half. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this file, save this as, and this is going to be our level 2, we'll call it level 2 challenge. Pet toy. Okay, and on this one I'm going to create layers. So this first level 1 here is going to get renamed, and this is going to be my bottom half vectors, the top half vectors, and side 2 top half vectors. Okay, the top half is going to have 2 sides to the cut. The bottom half is going to have just pocket cuts, nothing major. So the top side of this is going to get glued together, because this is, once this gets sealed and the deal is sealed, it's done. Okay. All right. So for this, we're going to have, we're working with the bottom half, so let's get our tracks kind of laid out. We're going to go with a 2-inch diameter hole, and let's see here. I'd like to have no. We're gonna go with a 1 and a hold on. We're gonna go 1.5 inch diameter on this one. Okay. Now I need 6 of these, and I need them laid out. I want to kind of lay them out in a particular order. So we'll move this to the side over here. Let's come down a little bit right there. And I'm going to hold down my control key, and I'm going to have another one over here. Okay, now we're going to be rounding this off, but I'm going to draw out my squares. So we're going to have a track. Basically, let me see if I can explain this. We are going to have a pocket. Inside that pocket, inside that area is going to be our 2-inch diameter, circle. And that was stupid to do that. Bear with me a second here. Let's make this the proper diameter, 2 wide. Okay. And we're going to center this up. Alignment tool, align to the selection, left and right on the center. Get that centered there. All right, now, in the lid, the top half, we're going to have this exposed dowel that goes down into this opening. Now, this opening is going to be rounded on the ends, so it'll look something like this. Okay. And then on the bottom side of this, there's going to be a pocket. This is going to have an offset that's going to be offset outward a 1/2 inch. Okay. And at the very bottom of this little peg is going to be a ring at the base of it, and it's also going to be offset a 1/2 inch. And the peg is going to be trapped, so it can only move front to back. It's only as far as it can go. It can't come out. It can't do anything. It can only move forward and backwards inside this. So we're going to have it trapped in that under that lid. So there's going to be a pocket on the second side. You'll see all this come together in just a second. So now on the bottom half, which is what we're working on here, there's going to be an opening. Basically that. This part can slide back and forth, but we're not doing any carving on this bottom half. All we're doing is cutting the hole where it needs to be. So basically, as this lid slides back and forth, we're going to be top loading the treats into this little peg. And as it slides over to one end, from one end to the other, there's going to be a pocket cut. There's going to be a circular pocket cut that when it gets over to here, those little treats are going to drop down into that pocket. And so when that puppy moves that piece back, it's going to expose the treats. But there's a second level that's covering this that they have to move out of the way as well. So here, all I have to do is all I need to know is where my pockets are going to be for my placement. And I would like to have 4 spread out through the center and 2 on each side. Now, on this, the shape itself, the outer shape, does not have to be a circle, but you got to make sure whatever shape that you do this in, it matches the top and the bottom, because these two halves are getting close together, getting sealed together and stuff. And hell, for simplicity's sake, we could almost make it a rectangle, a square type of deal. Yeah, let's do that. And then you can get creative with the outer shapes however you want. So let's create that 14 by 14. We're going to center that F9. All right, I would like 4 down the middle, spread out, alternating ends, and then I would like to have 2 on the side, something like that. So on this, even though this is the bottom half, I am going to draw out the rectangular areas, just to kind of so I can get my vectors in position and stuff. But I'm not going. We will not be using these to cut anything. We were only going to be drilling the pockets of the little holes. So for this, I'd like it to be probably 7 inches wide and 2 inches diameter, something like that. This hole, the treat hole, is going to be right kind of at the end. I don't want to go all the way to the end because when my little cap slides over, remember there's going to be a 1/2 inch ring under there, a trap ring. So I don't want to be too close over here. So if I did take and snap this to the side, I could then make sure that I move it relative to its position. I could move it positively, 3/4 of an inch, and that will give me, the position of where that circle is going to be. Now we can kind of get rid of all these circles here. Now that I have this, I can take and double click on it, and I want to hold down my control key, and I can bring down and I want 4 of these spread out here. So 1, 2, 4, and I'll show you how we're going to space them in just a second. Now I would like to have 2 of these on each side. So we're going to go here. Should have held the control key when I did that. Hold the control key. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to hit my 0 key twice on my keyboard to turn it 45-degree increments, and I can position that somewhere here, and then holding my control key, I'm going to drag this one over here. Okay, now I want to mirror these. I want to flip these things around. I don't want them being the same. So this guy right here, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these objects, and let's group them together. Group, select these 2, group. Let's go ahead and group just for the moment, grouping all these together. All right, on these 2 here, hold down the shift key to select both of them. I want to make sure that they're aligned to the material up and down, centered, which they are. And then in my mirror tool, I want to mirror one of them. I just want to flip one of them about job center and flip it vertically. Okay, that just puts the hole on the other side. All right. Now on these 4 objects, I'm going to select them, and then I'm going to hold down my shift key, and I'm going to select the outside rectangle, my profile cut. I'm going to select it last, and I'm going to go back into that alignment tool, align to selection, and I'm going to center them. Boom, they're all stacked on top of each other right now. Now inside that last vector, I'm going to space that selection vertically, not horizontally, vertically. So that will space them evenly, equal distance. Okay? So now everything is laid out here. All right. Now, on this base piece, the only holes that I'm going to be, the only pockets that I'm going to be cutting are these circular pockets. But before I do that, I want to mirror these. Go back into the mirror tool. Every other one I want to flip horizontally. Okay, I want them to kind of alternate. I don't want them to be the same. Okay. dowel. On each of these, where the hole is, there on that side where the hole is, where the trees kind of drop into, we are going to have a dowel cut. And this dowel cut is actually, there's going to be another piece that, on the top side when we get there, that literally swings around, it spins around, and it covers this hole so they can't quite see it right away. And they can't get the trees to drop out unless they move this swinging arm out of the way. They got to be, this is the level 2 challenge for the pups and kits and all that stuff. But they'll get it. Trust me, they'll get smart. Their brains are pretty quick when they need to get to a tree. So in the base of this, I don't need any holes or anything other than what I have here. This is all I need here. In the lid, the top part that's going to get glued to this, that's where all my holes and stuff are going to be. All right, so on this, I might as well make sure that when I create my top piece, because my top piece is essentially going to be based off of this, right? A lot of it is. I want to make sure that my arcs on these parts and all don't collide with one another and everything. So let's select everything now that we've done our mirroring and all that stuff, and let's ungroup it. And let's go into node editing. And I'm going to basically right click and turn that into an arc. Turn that into an arc. Same thing here. Arc. Oh. That went the wrong direction. All right. Now notice that you want to know why these are going inward is because they can't go outward because of the simple fact that these are in the way. So let's get out of node editing for a minute. Let's take these guys here. This one might have to be a little bit longer than it is more narrow. It might not be a square. I was trying to keep things consistent, but let's move this down. And let's move this one up. Let's move this one over. Let me make sure I'm, 2 inches. Okay, that's as wide as 2 inches, that's as wide as I need to go. All right, so mix and match. Let's take this guy here and let's move him over here. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Hold on, let me get that back where it was. Okay, I don't want to mess up with the spacing. So, I'm going to have to go a little bit longer than 14 on the length because in order to get the 6 pieces to fit in here the way I want and at this size, using a 2-inch dowel, I got to go longer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, I'm going to go 17 along my X, and on my rectangle I'm going to change that size and just add an inch to it on the width. I'm going to center it back on the material. We're going to take these guys here and we're going to center them back on the material. And now I should be able to space them out. I cannot get too close to this outer profile because I got my top lid is going to be cut 2.5 inches, that pocket. So I got to be a good distance away from this edge here. But I should be able to move them out far enough that I should be able to now go in and change to an arc and it not go inward. Okay, let's move this one. Oops. Close the rectangle tool. I don't know why I had that tool open. All right, let's go ahead and go back in. Let's finish this off. So, arc. Oh, that one went inward. Come on, Laney. You can do it. Alright. 2 arc. Oh, you son of a gun. Okay. 2 arc. Oh, you son of a gun. I'm going to put all the arcs on these and then I got to size them appropriately so they can fit because I'm not changing my board again. Okay, let's get these things sized appropriately so they fit. They're going to be 2 inches wide, but I want them, they should be only 7 inches in length, not 9 inches. 7. Ah, you son of a gun. Unlink your XY so it doesn't change that. I just need the length changed. There we go. Not liking that. Give me a second, guys, to get this laid out. Okay. No editing. Changing these back to an arc and pulling them arcs out to their fullest extent because I don't want it to reduce down. Pulling it out as far as it'll go. I'm in node editing mode right now. Right clicking on the line, changing it to an arc and pulling that arc out as far as it'll go. Because when I size this down, it stubbled. made the turned the arcs into Bezier curves, and it kind of stubbed them up. I don't want that. I just want plenty of clearance. All right. Because these vectors, even though we're not using them for the base, we are using them for the lid. And I want to be able to just copy and paste these vectors to another layer. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to forget the staggering. I'm going to take these guys here and I want to keep those holes in the position that they're in, so I'm grouping with the letter G. I'm just selecting and hitting the letter G. Alright, on these guys here, if I select that rectangular last, I can go ahead and align to the center, space them horizontally, there we go. And on this and this, I can align to the center of the material. Doesn't look bad there. Okay. On the outer perimeter, I want to go back into that rectangle, and I'm going to give it some radius corners. And I'm going to go with a 1 inch radius, not 0.1, 1 inch. Okay, just so it's kind of rounded and smooth. I don't want any sharp corners on this. Okay, all right, so this is going to be the bottom half vectors. Now, unfortunately, all of these vectors here don't need to, they don't need to all be on the bottom half, just some of them. And I don't know why I said the word unfortunately in front of that statement, but all I need for the bottom vectors are all the circles, and the outside profile. So I'm going to make a copy of those to the bottom half vectored layer. Okay, so that way all I have is just those. That's all I need. For the top half vectors, these guys are going to be all except for the holes. So we're going to move these over to the top half. No, that's all right. We can copy them. We'll copy them to the top half vectors. All right. So I should have those for my top half vectors, because there's going to be more we got to add to this. Now on the bottom side of this top half, we got to have this little pocket cut where the ring is going to slide and everything. So in here, I do not need these circles. I'm in the bottom half, layer, so I'm getting rid of them out of this layer. Don't need that. And all of these guys in this bottom half, on the side too and everything, they're going to be offset that 1/2 inch. So if I select all of these and I offset them outward 1/2 inch, I can actually delete the originals I don't need them. I can offset them outward. And it's fine that a couple of them are touching. Not a big deal. Because they're going to be hidden. That where it's touching and where those are open is going to be hidden by the others. So that's fine. Alright, so now I should have my bottom half pocket vectors there. My top half pocket, which we still got to add some more little things here to that. And then my holes and my profile cut on the bottom half to get cut out. Okay. So let's create some toolpaths to get us started. Let's start with the bottom half. Very simple. Pocket cuts. These pocket cuts are going to be on the circles, and they're going to be cut. I mean, hell, 1/4 inch, 0.3 inches deep. They don't need to be very deep. There's going to be the little hole. They're going to be the little hole that the treats drop into that expose them. Now you got to keep in mind the dog is already going to have to reach through 3/4 of an inch thick material to get these treats out. And this toy might be maybe for a smaller dog with a smaller snout. You know, a bigger dog might not be able to get to these treats. You don't know. So this one might be, you know, for smaller pups that can get down in there and grab them and stuff. So we don't want to go too deep with this hole, you know, already. 0.75. Not what I just said. We don't want to go too deep. 0.25. All right, so we're going to calculate that. Okay. On this bottom half, we have a profile cut. The profile cut is going to be all the way through. 1/4 inch end mill outside of the profile. We can add some tabs if we want. Edit tabs. And this does not matter where the tabs go. They don't have to match any of the other tabs because we are cutting these out of 2 individual 3/4 inch pieces of wood. Separate 3/4 inch pieces of wood. And this one's only one side. This particular one's only one side. So this is going to be our lower half of this project. Profile cutout. Profile cut. Calculate that. Okay. Now, on our pocket cut, might as well be consistent. This is our lower half. And this is our pocket cuts. Now, if you find that you need to go deeper than 1/4 of an inch, go deeper than 1/4 of an inch. But I'm going to start at 1/4 of an inch, and I can always go deeper if I need to. So if we preview these two toolpaths, we have our little pocket cuts. There we go. Okay, it's going to be our bottom half there. All right, now, question of the day. If I have, let's go back to our 2D view and let's turn on our lower half vectors here. If I have this peg and everything sliding back and forth kind of in this groove and everything, this is my top side of my top half and this is going to be the pocket on the bottom half. But if I have this peg sliding through, and it can only slide back and forth. It's going to be trapped within these rings. You know, it can only slide back and forth in here. And those, you know, it's the only place it can go. Now, here's the kicker. If I don't put any kind of small little groove. Nope. Never mind. I'm stupid. I was answering my own. I was wrong question, wrong thing that I was thinking. Okay, so sorry guys. I was thinking something different, which is totally irrelevant. So we're not even going to go into it. All right. So turning all this off, we've got our toolpaths for our lower half vectors. All right. So those can go away now. Now our top half vectors. The top half vectors. They're going to be profile cuts. We're literally just cutting those pieces out so we can select all of those. And profile cut. This is going to be cutting all the way through. This is a second board now, 3/4 inch material. We're going to cut all the way through on this. Quarter-inch end mill. We're going to be on the outside of the cut, but again, remember, because we have inside vectors, it's going to reverse the cut for us, so it's smart enough to know that. I'm going to... I don't. I don't need any tabs. I do need tabs. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't have any tabs is what I meant to say. Let's go 4 on the outside. And then on these guys, because there is going to be a centerpiece that's getting cut. Oh, man. Hold on a second. The tabs are going to get cut away on these inside ones. Dig it down. You'll see in a second the tabs are going to get cut away. So okay, that's fine. Remind me, guys, on all these, on this one especially, this is important, to put the alignment pins in. We didn't put the alignment pins in the other one. Y'all reminded me earlier. All right, so this part here, when it gets cut out, you've got to break off these center pieces. Shit. Nope. Let's change this up. We're going to cut this 1/4 inch deep. This is what you get when you don't design ahead of time. Okay. We have a pocket, a wider pocket that's going to be cut on the bottom side of this. Now that pocket is going to be cut pretty much the thickness of how thick our rings are going to be on our lids, you know, on our little peg bowls and all. And I was thinking that they would probably be maybe 0.3 or 3/8 inch thick type of deal. Not very thick. Really, they only really need to be 1/4 inch thick. So that pocket, it needs to be at least that deep on the bottom side. Well, the tabs here get cut from the bottom, or they start from the bottom. So as soon as I pocket them out, those tabs are gone. So what I need to do is I need to cut this only as deep as those pockets are, where it's going to meet the bottom of the pockets on the other side. So if I've got a 3/4 inch board, and let's say I'm going 1/4 of an inch deep on that other side, and I don't want it tight. I don't want a tight fit and everything on that ring and stuff. So I'm going to go 0.47 inches deep. 0.47 inches deep with a 1/4 inch end mill all the way around. Okay, we're going to calculate that. This is going to be my top half. Profile cut, because it's the only damn cut on this side. Profile cut. All right. Oh, I got a duplicate vector. Bear with me a second. Select all duplicate vectors right there. So we don't need that. There we go. All right, one more time. We got to go back and edit the tabs because, of course, the duplicate vector was the one that had the tabs on it. Okay, let's calculate that out. All right. So if we preview this toolpath here, this is going to be from the top side. This will be the only cut minus our little holes that we've got to drill. You'll see those in just a second. We haven't made those parts yet. That'll be the top half. That'll be what we see from the top, basically. Now, let's jump to the bottom half. Or the bottom side of the top half, should I say. And these guys, just these guys, not the profile cut, but just these, they're going to be a pocket cut. And they're going to be cut my rings are going to be 1/4 of an inch. Basically 0.75 minus 0.45 inches is how big or 0.47 inches. Shit, how deep did I go? Oh, 0.47. So pocket cut 3/4 minus 0.47 equals 0.28. That's how deep those pockets are going to be. Top half, side 2, pockets. Oh, you son of a gun. How stupid. Let's stop that. Don't even close your eyes. Don't even look at that one. This gets deleted. Delete this. These guys here get copied to the other side, or moved, not copied, moved to the other side. There we go. Jesus, Laney. All right, let's try that one again. Pocket cut, 0.28 inches deep. My goodness. Top half. This is what happens when I try to do too many projects in one night. But I wanted to give you a variety. Top half. Side 2. .25 email. All right, let's reset the preview back to a blank board. Let's look at our top half cut. All right, let's flip it over. Create this pocket. Now, this pocket should still leave my tabs intact and give me this pocket cut. Okay, these pieces are going to be gone. All right, and if we were to look at this without the tabs so you could see it, it would probably make a little bit of sense to you. Now I need to cut my profile out on this piece, so let's finish this up on that bottom half. Let me switch this over and let me make a copy of this to the other side. And on this profile cut, I need to cut it also 0.28 inches deep. On the outside of the line, we'll add tabs. Do I not have tabs on it already? Bear with me, guys. All right. Okay, this is the vector that I need to move or copy over to the other side because it's the one with the tabs that I need. So 0.28 inches deep. Add tabs to the toolpath. Calculate. I'll rename it here in a second. Okay, it did not break the surface on that, so let me see here. 0.47. 0.5. 0.5. There we go. All right. So this is the top half. These center pieces will be knocked out. They're gone. This outer waist will be gone. This part will be glued. Will be glued to the bottom half. The bottom half will look like this. Now, it will not get glued to the bottom half until our pegs are made and in place. Okay, which is what we're doing right now. Okay, so this is our bottom half. The top half gets glued to this part. Okay, easy enough. Now we need to make our pegs. So for this, I'm going to create another project. I'm not making the pegs in the same project and all, and confusing things even worse. This will not take long at all. We're going to go 15 by 5.5 by 3/4 of an inch thick. It doesn't need to be, by 1.5 inches thick, not 3/4. Sorry. Oh, you son of a gun. 1.5 inches thick. Okay, on this we have our 2-inch, same layout that we had almost earlier, but our 2-inch diameter profile cuts. There are dowels, whatever you want it to be. Inside of that dowel is going to be offset inward by 1/2 of an inch, or by half, not 1/2, but by half. Oops, I went outward. Inward. There we go. Point. Bear with me. 0.37. There we go. All right, and then we're going to have a 1/2 inch offset, which is a 1/4 inch on each side of this. So we're going to offset a 1/4. That'll make it a 0.25, and it's going to be outward. Okay. Now I need, how many of these do I need? I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. 6 of these. And let's make sure my numbers are correct before I go any further. Let's take this size here, because that's basically off of my 2-inch diameter. Let's look at this, at our size here. This is my, all right, so that's our 2-inch diameter post. We got a 1/2 inch offset all the way around. That makes it a 1/2 inch on each side, which is a total of 3 inches, not 2.5. So if I go back to this lid, if I select on this far outside circle, what is my size here? 2.5. Gives me a 1/4 of an inch of play all the way around. Let's make this 2 3/4. I don't need. There we go. All right, so I need 6 of these, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6. So 1, 2. Hold down the control key. Hold down the control key. I'm gonna mirror those. Oops, wrong direction. Okay. So with my alignment tool, I'm going to align them center, make sure they're centered up and down. Same thing with these guys. Make sure they're centered up and down. On the spacing, I can spread these out a little bit more. They don't need to be so close together. Okay. All right, let's create some levels here. So the outside profile is going to be our far outside ring for side 2, basically. Our inside profile is going to be our pocket cuts. So let's do it this way. Right now we are in the top side here, And so we're going to be, let's use these vectors here. Okay. And with these vectors, we are going to create a profile cut, cutting 1/4 of an inch deep with our round over tool. On the outside of the cut, cutting a negative 0.125, 1/8 of an inch. This is going to be the peg round over. And it's not a 2.5 N mil, it is a 2050 round over. Okay, I'm going to calculate that. Okay, it's going to give us that rounded over top. Okay, we're going to have a profile cut. This material here is going to be 1.5 inches thick, and so this profile cut, our ring was only 0.28 inches deep. Remember, so this is going to be 1.5 minus 0.27. I want a 10,000ths of an inch play. Bear with me a second. I'm cutting. Subtract 0.27. All right, minus 0.2. That should give me the depth that I need. And of course, let's make sure that we do that properly with the correct bit. Let's try resetting that there, and let's make sure we change that to the 1/4 inch end mill, like smart people that we are. And click calculate. Okay. Now our center holes, which we haven't drawn yet, our center holes need to be wide enough that we can top load some treats in there. And so I'm thinking that maybe a 1/2 inch in diameter, 0.5. We need to make it to where we can top load in there. So I'm going to drop this 0.5. And on those center holes, that is going to be a pocket cut, cutting 3/8 of an inch deep with a 1/4 inch end mill. I'll name these in just a second. Okay, we should be able to upload some little treats in there. If you find that a 1/2 inch, it just needs to be smaller than 1 inch in diameter, because that's how our inner circle is. But 1/2 inch should be fine for little square little treats or something, or you can break them down. All right, so this is going to be our top parts of our pegs. That's it, done and done. Okay. Now on side two, we need the outside profiles. And we need the inside, not the most inside, but the little inside one here. We need these vectors copied to the other side. Let's try that again, Laney. The reason why I just undid that is because I selected move to the other side, not copy. Copy to the other side. There we go. All right. So first things first, on the other side, got these holes. They're going to be a pocket cut. These are going to be deep on our 1.5 inch piece. It's an 1.5 inch, thick basically. We're going to cut 1 1/8 inch deep, and we'll probably break through. Let's go 0.126 or 0.13, 1.1, 3. So we break through. Calculate. Preview that selected toolpath. So we should be able to see that hole there. Very good. And then finally not finally, we got to do alignment holes and all that. I haven't done alignment holes all night on these two-sided projects. I'm going to profile cut these. Now these only need to be cut a very small amount. We've already cut one. Let's flip back over to the other side here for a second, and let's look at our pocket cut here, or profile cut, should I say? 1.22 inches. 1.22 inches. We've already cut. That material's pretty much gone. On this vector here, we're going to be cutting out here now. Okay, so I bet you I screwed that one up. I screwed the pooch on that one. Profile cut is only going to be 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch offset for a total of 1/2 inch. Okay, stop. On this profile cut here, it is not going to be a profile cut. We're going to delete that. It should be a pocket cut. And it should pocket beyond this. So on all of these outside ones here, glad I went back and looked at that. We need to offset them all outward. Small amount. I'm going to go just a 32nd. Okay. With those selected, let's try this again. So between these two vectors right here, between these two selected vectors, that should be a pocket cut, cutting 1.22 inches deep with the end mill. And that will make that look like this. Much better. Now on side 2, our profile cut is basically 1.5 inches minus 0.122 equals 0.28. Now, I want that bit to go over this line a small amount. I want that piece to be able to slide freely, not be so darn tight. So I want to offset this a negative. I'm just going to go probably about 10 thousandths of an inch or 20 thousandths of an inch. You know, I don't necessarily need to, you know, I don't necessarily need to offcut that. I may need to offset another pocket here in a minute as well too, but let's calculate that out. Let's preview that cut. Now I didn't add tabs. For the simple purpose of I should be able to delete this so we can see what our game pieces look like. There we go. Now the diameter of this pocket right here is going to be an exact fit to these slots, right? We need to give some allowance so it can slide in the center part of this, you know? So we're going to go back to side 1 to our pocket cut. Okay? And we're going to give it an allowance. We're going to allow it to go over the lines. And I'm just going to go a negative 0.02, a 20 thousandths of an inch. Just a small amount, you know, just a little bit of slipping in play. If you want to go more, you know, to make it easier for the pup to be able to slide back and forth, go more. Go a 1/16th of an inch. Go a 32nd, you know, or something. You know, that way, you know, it's easy for them to move back and forth. It's not a, you know, it's not a human doing this, so we got to make it somewhat easy for them. So let's go a 32nd, you know, allow it to go over that. And what that should do is if I go into solid mode here, it should allow that to cross over. This is the side that I'm worried about. That one's just scrap wood. By here, a 32nd of an inch. So now a 32nd of an inch on both sides, that's a 1/16th of an inch of play. That's plenty. So we got a 1/16th of an inch all the way around, 32nd on each side. So now this is going to be our this is our pegs top side pocket cut. And this is our center cutout. We'll call this our load hole. Load hole. Top side. Okay. On side 2, we've got our pocket. This is where our little cavity. So this will be our side 2. Center pocket, 0.25 in mil. And then finally, we'll have our side 2 outer profile. Now, oops. Let me make that a period. Okay. So looking at our, if we go in and reset this preview and You know, we look at these parts here and we preview all sides. Let's get into the 3D view when we do that. Preview all sides. Okay. We should have our parts, our game pieces that fit into the grooves. That we've cut on our, let's reset this preview, and we have our top half profile cut. Let's preview that one. Flip that over. Okay. So those pegs and everything, and just for jits and giggles for a minute, let's turn off the tabs just for a second. Just for a second. Okay, so our pegs will be able to fit through this, you know, and they will, the round ring, you know, will be able to, it'll be trapped in here. It'll only be able to slide back and forth, and then of course as it slides back and forth, it, you know, will release those treats into the cavity that's on the bottom half that this is glued to. It'll be trapped in there. Now, on the top half here, I'd like to have a little bit of a little bit of a level 2 to this that they have to move out of the way. And this is the last piece to this, and we're done for the night. But on here, I'd like to have a little thing that they've got to slide out of the way to expose those treats, you know, and also they got to slide it out of the way before they can slide the piece down for it to drop the treats and everything. And in order to do that, we're going to need a dowel hole, 1/4-inch dowel hole that, you know, we can, you know, a short dowel we can stick in there that you know, will allow our little top lid type thing to rotate. And then we're going to need a small you know, piece on the top. Now I'm thinking that the top piece should be probably 1/4 of an inch thick, and you know, 3/8 of an inch thick at the most. And let me give you a visual of what I'm talking about. Bear with me a second. Let's close this one and let's open up on this. And similar to like this little guy here, how the pieces have to slide over, you know, they'll slide, and as they slide over they will drop the treat. But there's these little trap doors here that cover the holes that have to be literally turned so that one, the game piece can slide over that hole, but two, it exposes those treats. And so this little top piece here is about a 1/4 inch thick, and it's going to just be, there's going to be a little pocket on the back side of it where a dowel glued into, and it goes into a hole, and it can just literally spin 360 degrees freely. Just presses down into that hole, and it can spin freely, so it can just slide right out of the way, like a little hinge. When it's closed, the piece cannot get over there, so they have to move it out of the way. They got to turn that thing out of the way and then slide that piece with their snout or whatever, over the hole. Now, we're not doing any kind of center thing like this or whatever. I'd like to have this little trap door like that, a little similar trap door like that. And so that's the concept of what I'm going for. So on the top half of this, imagine that, right in here is, if when these two parts are together, there is, there's that pocket that they can drop into and stuff. And so we need something that can kind of swing, in one direction or the other. And I don't know. Maybe I don't have these parts far enough apart, these pieces far enough apart to swing something in one direction or the other. Maybe if these were not 2 inches in diameter, maybe they were 1.5 inches in diameter and spread out a little bit more, then those little doors could be there, because if a piece is here and this doors can't swing that way unless that piece is moved, it would just make it a much more challenging puzzle or a little toy for them. But if we were going to do that, then it would look relatively something. The piece, I really don't think it would be any more than 1/4 inch thick MDF or something, 1/4 inch thick material. 3/8 max on this, but I'm going to go 1/4 inch. General shape of them, our part here, on this top side here is 2 inches wide. 2 inches wide there. So our little swinging door would have to be at least that wide, if not wider. So I'm thinking 2.5. And I'm thinking 1.5 inches. Well, let's see. We actually got to kind of measure. We got to kind of use the other project to measure. So when this part can slide only as far as it can go. Oops, not that far. Okay. Our hole should be about 3/4 inch offset here, and if we were to turn on those vectors, we would see that it's about 3/4 inch. So our part would have to pretty much be able to cover that hole a little bit, and also be long enough that we could put a 3/4 inch dowel here, and it's got to be able to swing one direction or the other. Now, if you notice in this one, they're much narrower. That's less than 2 inches and everything here. And these little swinging doors have a little shape to them. Basically, they're following almost the contour of this arc here and everything. So there's not, they're not square and all. And, notice that these grooves here, go past the part so that the and the hole is right at the very end of this 2-inch groove. It's like right there at the end of it, but that groove goes past it so the toy can go past it and drop those treats off. Ours doesn't. Ours, our hole is here, and when our 2-inch piece, our hole is not at the end of this top piece, and then this groove doesn't go like beyond it even more. So our piece has to be, at least that wide. Oh, do I want to do this door thing? I'll make one. I'll make one door, and then you just rinse and repeat if you want to do the others. All right, so on this, basically I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm going to turn this into an arc, and I'm just going to pull this shallow arc, just enough to tease the shit out of them. Okay, and then gonna take my fillet tool and put a 1/4-inch radius there. Let's see if I can go more. See how far I can push it. There we go. And you'll see this in action here in just a second. With those selected, I'm going to make sure it's centered there. And I'm going to move it in just a little. And so if I came and double click on this part when it's in transform mode, if I double click on that centerpiece, it gives me my pivot tool. And if I put that pivot point, not tool, pivot point right in the center of that, I can rotate this now to see that door swing, so I can get a general consensus or general idea of, if that little door was swinging on a little 1/4-inch dowel, I could kind of get a general idea of how badly it's going to interfere with the part. And really not that bad, because, they would just have to move things out of the way, whatever, or they would have to spin it the other way or what have you. So, not too shabby. So having that, shape kind of laid out, if I grab these two things here and I copy those, I can go back over to my drawing board here, delete that, and paste. And I need 6 of these. So if I hold down the control key, 1, 2, double click, hold down the control key, 4, 6. Now, make it an oval, Sylvia Klosterman says, so that's a good idea as well. Absolutely. Either way, whatever design kind of best fits the project in itself. This one, now, unless you want to do something decorative at the top, I don't know, V-carve or put something in there, a little picture of a little dog bone or something, you know, that gets, you know, shallow engraving, whatever. If you want to do something decorative on the top of this to give it a little bit of visual stimulus, you can. Basically, you're going to have profile cuts. There's going to be two sides to this. And it's actually technically one side, right? We don't need to flip this over on this 1/4 inch piece. You're going to have a profile cut that cuts the part out, okay? And that'll be the last cut. Then there'll be a pocket cut. So let's go 0.25 inches deep, 1/4 inch end mill, outside of the cut. It's only a 1/4 inch thick material, so 32nd inch tab. I'll put 2 tabs on each piece. I'm not going to go crazy with tabs on these little parts. All right, we'll calculate that. Okay. And then on the circles here, these are little pocket cuts. They're shallow. There's just, we're going to be epoxying or gluing in the tip of a dowel, a small little dowel, and it's going to make like a little door hinge type thing. So it's going to be a pocket cut. This is only a 1/4 inch deep. So maybe half through, like 1/8 of an inch. That's it, you know. All right, so if we preview all the toolpaths on that. Okay. Now that thin area there, let's go ahead and take these 3 guys here and let's just bump them apart a little bit more. Let's take these 3 guys up here. Let's bump them apart a little bit more. And let's recalculate. I'm going to hit this calculator right here to recalculate all those toolpaths again. And let's look at that a little bit more. Let's reset that preview and let's preview that again. There we go. Puts a little bit of meat in between, you know. So that's going to be our little doors. And again, you know, on the top side, if you wanted to do something decorative, a little V-carve or something, a little engraving, you know, a picture of a dog bone or a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. You could do something, you know, just to give it a little bit of a style so it's not so bland or blank, you know. You could do little, I don't know, little groove type cuts or something, you know, just to give it a little bit of something. Now, so that's the top pieces. Those will get cut out. Simple 2 toolpaths. Bam, bam. A little pocket cut to drill the little hole, to make a little hole. It could be a drilling toolpath too. It doesn't have to necessarily be a pocket. And then your profile cut. And then on the top side, now we need to, you know, our hole placement. So I'm going to have this placed right where it's at. And basically I'm going to take and put this in transform mode. I'm going to hold down, or let's delete that one first. Let's actually use the vectors from our parts because we moved this piece in a little bit. So if I take this and I copy it and I move back over now and I paste, I can now take and position this, and that'll show me where my hole is. Now if I group that together, if I hold down my control key, I can grab it right here on the center. Right here on the center. If I hold my control key down, I can come down to this one. That'll show me where that one needs to go. If I hold down my control key, I can grab this and move this over here. And if I hit the F9 key and rotate that all the way around, I can now zoom in. And we can make those doors wider if we need. Probably should. All right, anyway, that one. Hold down the control key, move that up to here. Hold down the control key, take and hit my 0 key twice. And drop that there. Hold down my control key, drag this over here, hit my 9 or 0 key, it doesn't matter. Okay, by placing those, what that does is now I can ungroup. These vectors, and now I can select these holes. And that gives me the holes for my drilling operation, and we only need to go down I don't know, we can go a ½ inch deep, 1/4 inch, calculate that, preview the toolpaths. That's going to give our drilling holes. And because these holes, we're not gluing anything into them and all that, these little doors, there's going to be a dowel glued to them that's however long, ½ inch long, 3/8 inch long, whatever. And they're going to slip right down into these holes. And they're just going to be able to swing freely. They're going to be able to rotate all the way around and everything to close up, you know. And that's going to give us that little kind of door effect, you know, where it can just swing around, you know, and stuff. And now see how these got the grooves in the top? If you want some kind of little decorative design, you could do something like that. But that just gives them, they got to scratch and paw, they got to move it out of the way. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 different looking little dog toys. We have a very simple, basic dog toy that just has some round pegs and everything, and they have to move it out of the way to expose the treat. Of course, don't put a treat under each one. Make them guess and make them move, go for it and stuff. So a basic level one. We have one that has a spinning top. Play around with how you get the bearing to work, or just do a groove all the way around and throw some BBs in there, whatever. Make a lazy Susan is basically what you're doing, and the top's going to spin around to expose the hole. And then you have your third option, which is basically you've got something similar to this effect. And my inspiration came from you got to give credit where credit is due. Nina Odison out of Sweden. That's these are these projects and stuff, and it's very cool, and I'm not going to order one from Sweden, but I'll make one on the CNC, and it'll be a nice little gift to give my daughter. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. I will clean up these files, and I will make them available. Also, the files from last week's class, they will be available in the description of last week's video. They will be in last week's video. They will be in there. I just haven't put them up yet. I was in Louisiana for the last few days, and I didn't get a chance to get them up just yet. But they will be in over the next tonight or tomorrow. These files, I'll clean them up and everything, and they'll be available as well. And then it's up to you to use your creativeness and take and be creative with it. Now you kind of get the concept and stuff, And if you don't want to make one of these, but you would love to have one of these toys for your pets and everything, please support and check out Nina Ottosson at www.nina-ottosson.com. And you'll see all kinds of cool little neat games and stuff. Give you some inspiration. Or give you something to buy. If you don't want to make it and you just want to buy it to get your play pet, that would be a good way to go. All right, everyone. I want to thank you. If you have no questions on anything, we're going to call it a night. It was a long one. Thanks for hanging out with me this long. And until next time, I hope we didn't have, other than the disconnect, we had a power disconnect. We had a hopefully things were smooth and we didn't have a whole lot of buffering. Be sure in the description of this video, or the comment section of this video, and let me know how the quality was tonight versus the past nights and everything, and if the two computer system is worked out much better and things like that. Let me know, and if so, I'll stick with it and everything. But until next time, guys and girls and everyone in between, see you soon.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight on Spindle TV, your best source for CNC CAD/CAM training videos. If you're watching Spindle TV on YouTube, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. You can find out more information about our training and products by visiting us at www.digitalwoodcarver.com.